This is BBC Essex.
Yeah, life is for the living. Why are we talking about that? Life is for living. Well, my next guest today on the programme grew up in Colne Valley, now lives and works in London. He's commercial director of his own company. He's actually sitting next to me in a suit at the moment, which means he's obviously working hard. A very successful person. He has all of life in front of him. The only thing is, he has an incurable cancer. And he writes an online blog about his journey. He's just written his 7th book. He is donating money from the books to charity. Marcus Evans. Marcus, good morning.
Good morning, Dave. Nice to meet you.
Really good to see you as well. Tell me about the condition that you've got.
Okay, so the conditions I've got is called splenic lymphoma. It's a non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is basically an incurable blood and bone cancer. And yeah, the diagnosis occurred sort of about 10 months ago or so.
And how did you get that diagnosis? What happened that made you go to the doctor?
Well, so I used to do a lot of running. I've run a couple of marathons, not as well as I'd hoped, but I did them anyway. And I sort of ran sort of 30 or 40 miles a week. And I noticed that I was getting really tired after about sort of 5 or 6 miles, which most people wouldn't think much of, but because I was so used to running further, I went to the doctor and sort of had a test. They gave me some blood tests, and then they called me back and said, look, can you come down to the surgery today? So I went down to the surgery and sort of, they said, look, we've got some negative results in terms of your white cell count that's really high. We're going to send you straight to some Barts for some more tests. So I had a battery of tests, a whole variety, and then it turned out I had splenic lymphoma, which is a type of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And
so what does that mean?
So really it means that my white blood cells are increasing. I've got sort of a flawed cell which creates bad white blood cells that don't work very well.
Right.
And over time they grow, and eventually I'll sort of need treatment, and then after that, they'll continue to grow. So there's no cure for it at this point.
This is a sort of slow burn, isn't it? Because it could happen at any time, couldn't it?
Yeah. So I mean, I have meetings with the doctor and blood tests every 3 to 6 months, and then they'll give me the results, and then sort of every time I'm obviously very nervous,
yeah.
And then we'll see how much it's increased. So yeah, at any point the doctor could say, well, okay, now's the time to start treatment, although I'm hoping that's some time off in the future.
May I be rude and ask how old you are now?
Yes, I'm 30.
You're 30 years old, okay. So everything before you got your own company, very, very successful, everything's going great. What was your view of life before you were told?
So, I mean, it was a difficult one. I've always sort of wanted to follow my goals and sort of achieve what I could, but there's always that sort of, well, maybe I'll just sit in front of the TV tonight opposed to carry out what I want to do.
Yeah.
And then I went through a really bad time for sort of 3 or 4 months after I've diagnosed. I started an online blog, which is www.spleniclymphoma.com, a catchy name.
Yeah.
Yeah, really, I went through a very bad time, and then I thought, well, there's some things I've always wanted to do but never got around to doing, such as publishing a book. So I've written lots, but the first 3 or 4 were a learning experience. And then this most recent one, I thought, well, that's potentially got legs, but rather than waiting for a publisher for 2 years to publish it, I thought, well, you know what, I'll just do it myself. And also, because I used to raise money by running, and I can't do that now, I thought, well, I'll give all the proceeds to charity. So that's what I've sort of been doing there. But yeah, it's really changed my perception in terms of, if there's something you want to do, I think you should go out and do it, because otherwise you sort of run out of time.
But how easy is it to do that? Because being positive sounds great, doesn't it? Let's all be positive about everything, but sometimes you actually find brick walls in front of you.
You do, and certainly emotionally for the first 3 to 6 months, it was really tough. I mean, my blog reflects that. I think the ups and downs are incredible. You can feel fine, and then you'll hear something, or it'll trigger something. You think about it every day anyway,
yeah.
And that'll really, really hit you, and you'd find it tough to deal with. I think though you do get used to it. You don't accept it really, but you do get used to it, and really you just have to push through it, because otherwise it will own you opposed to the other way around. And if you consider that, so it's easy to sit there before I was diagnosed and think, well, I'll live till I'm 80, so I'll retire and then I can go and do all these things. But now, well, actually, that might not happen. So let's look at the now.
It is amazing, isn't it? And I'm not being crass here, but we all know we're going to die. Because it's the only thing that we're absolutely certain about. We are going to die at some point in our lives.
Yeah, that's true.
It's going to come to an end. End of. None of us knows when it's going to be. And aren't we profligate with the time?
Yeah, we are. I mean, I do it myself. Even now, I'll catch myself sitting in front of the TV and watching some stupid show.
I think, why am I doing this?
Why am I doing this? I could be upstairs finishing another book, or I could be out travelling the world, or learning something different. Learning a skill, or just even out having fun with my friends is infinitely preferable to sitting home watching TV. But it's difficult to get into that mindset.
Tell me about the books.
Okay, so I started writing when I finished university about 9 years ago. To be honest, the first 3 or 4 were pretty bad.
About what?
So it's been a mixture, really. I've written some sci-fi and some science fantasy. It was more a formative stage for me on the basis that the first 3 or 4 weren't good, and I was learning my trade. You can't expect to be great when you start. And then since then I've diversified a bit. So the first one I published is actually a sort of coming-of-age thriller set in Essex.
Right.
So that they are on varying topics.
And this is the path you're going to go down now. Is it writing more?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to continue writing. I've actually written number 8, although editing takes a lot longer than writing. I'm very quick at writing, but then the editing takes sort of a year.
You don't edit your own, do you?
I do, and then I pass it across to other people, and then I get it back again. And
that's a nightmare, isn't it?
It is, yeah, because you're reading what you wanted to write, not what you've written. So you kind of have to read it from the end backwards, which is really boring. But it's not as exciting as the writing, certainly.
You're doing it for charity. What charity are you doing all this for?
So the Lymphoma Association.
And how do they help?
So their sort of support. Their support for families, their support for people who are suffering. They certainly don't really deal with the research side of things. I think that's more cancer research in various other organisations. But because my blog is much more focused around helping people, and I've had some really great responses on that front, I think the Lymphoma Association do great work in terms of helping people.
What are your next plans? What are you going to do? What are you going to do this afternoon? What are you going to do right now? Because you've got your suit on now, so that means you're going back to London to work, does it?
Yeah, it is, yeah. So I'm the commercial director of a company called Nutbomb, which I set up with my best friend, who's also from Essex.
Yeah.
Brief plug, we do IT support in Chelmsford and Essex as well as London. So I'm going to go back, and I've got a couple of pitch meetings this afternoon, which is always exciting. And then I suppose after that, it's my girlfriend's birthday, so we're going out for drinks. And
do you enjoy what you're doing every day? Because a lot of people listening to us at the moment would say, well, if I were him, the first thing I'd do is give up work and wander around the world and have a laugh.
It did occur to me. So I did throw... all bets were off when I got diagnosed. I threw everything around and thought about various different things. But I used to work for another organisation in London, and I didn't really enjoy it. So although it was sort of quite rewarding financially, I decided that actually what I really wanted to do was set up a company with my best friend and go into business. And consequently, I wouldn't really want to be doing anything else, because for the last 2 years we've been sort of growing this company together. There's sort of 12 of us now. We're really building up, and it's an exciting time, and it's exciting to do. So that's really why I've pushed it.
You're a lesson to us all, Marcus. You really are. What's the blog address once again? So
the blog address is www.spleniclymphoma.com, and the book, just another brief plug, seems I'm here, is called Robert, and it's available on Amazon. Just type in Robert, it's at the top. Okay, Marcus, thank you very much for coming in. Been really good meeting you, and as I say, we need to speak to, I think we all need to speak to somebody with your mindset occasionally in our lives, just to give us a bit of a, Yeah, well, I've changed so the most recent blog post is say hello to anyone who's tuning in from Essex Radio, so thank you very much. Well, thank you very much indeed. It's good to meet you today. Marcus Evans there. So, Essex boy, made good, doing good.